Alright, what's going on, guys? Can you hear me? Again, check all, doing all systems check. Mic's on. See, we got one viewer. Get and wait for a couple of more to start Power Hour. Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Only Zach in here, man. Let me see. We got two people. I'm just gonna wait till we have at least 10, and then we'll get it rolling. Let me see who all's in the chat. We got 4. If you guys can just drop in, say hi, let me know who all's in here. I know Zach's in here. We got 3 more. I just want to know, can I get a gauge of who all's in these power hours right now? Six. You guys can just say hi. What's going on, Saber? Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and it's 11:42. Boo, awesome. What's up, Keith? Billionaire. What's up? What's up, everyone? Well, Bitcoin's down, right? Let's take a look at it. I'm going to get started, kind of roll in. We had been tracking BTC, and I'd seen like divergence after divergence. It just kept making new highs on these divergences. Put me on a 5-minute. I'm gonna go back to like a 2-hour. This was worrisome, but it just kept being bullish, kept being really bullish and pushing to new highs. And that's, we don't usually see that on a divergence, right? We see higher highs on a lower highs on the RSI, and we knew it was gonna drop at some point, and I kind of had a short open here and I closed it there. Now, you know, it made that 11.7. I was out running errands, and then when I got home it was somewhere around here, and I closed my long just soon enough to get out without taking a hit. But I still think we're going up in the long run, right? I mean, this is another retracement. I expected to see 50% retracement off this high, and we didn't see that. Instead, we saw it act bullish again. Based on these fibs, if this was the proper fib to respect, we'd be at bottom, but we're not seeing that volume come in. So I really think our next, or you know, the next really good long is going to be at that 50% fib at 105. I'll get and drop a price tag on there. I think that's where our next bounce is going to be, and I'll explain it here in a bit, or I'll explain it next. Let's go to price label. We should expect to see the next bounce off one of 10.05 or 10.5. And the reason I say that is, one, because of that 50% fib. You're not seeing the buy volume step in here. We saw how quickly it bounced back here at this 50 fib. Was that a 50? I believe it was. Yep. Going to that wick, it was. Now, another thing that's a little worrisome, Bcash was sort of pumping yesterday, so the Bcash pump might be contributing to this might be a Bcash BTC inverse play where they mirror each other, right? We've seen that happen time and time again, and it typically happens when BTC is bullish when it's least expected. The reason I say this is because, well, I guess it's not. At some point yesterday, it did this. I guess it's not a Bcash BTC play, which is good. I had an alert set for this high, and then it broke it, and then it came back down. So I'm glad we're not up here on Bcash. So this is not a big deal on BTC, but that sell-off was just so, it was so fast and steep. I mean, the guys long short on BitMEX got to see how, you know, they literally saw how fast this candle developed. It was like a 1 minute candle all the way down. Anyway, so I'm staying away from BitMEX until we get to that 10.5 range. That's my consensus from margin trading up and down on BTC. I wanna tailor this power hour more to you guys, and I'm actually taking the comments from the YouTube feed. So give me like 3 altcoins that you want me to cover, right? And then I'll go through them and I'll cover the next 3 and the next 3 and the next 3. So give me some altcoins and I will go ahead and get some TA on them. This is awesome. Putin orders Russia prepares to legalize cryptocurrency markets by July 2018. That's good. We got something to look forward to in July. RVT. Is this on any other exchanges than BTC? Hey, hi Sochi. Elite, is this token on any other exchanges? I could look it up, but if you can tell me, it'd be better. This is the type of chart that I like to stay away from. Yeah, it's definitely something I'd stay away from. It's doing these like pulses. It looks pump and dumpy. Especially I don't know much about it. It's on a really low volume, and it's only on one exchange. So unless it's got really good FA and it's like a secret coin that nobody knows about, I would stay from it. Yeah, there's 2 BTC volume. If you put another 2 BTC in there, that's gonna double the daily volume. That's not a good chart to be in because there's no liquidity. Just based on volume, based on what I'm seeing, I don't see divergences. I see these big pumps and then it just tapers off into nothing. Don't like it, especially not knowing much about the project. I'm gonna go to ZRX. Guys, let's measure a long-term retracement on ZRX. I know we had posted on it that it might, you know, be due for some gain in volume, and because it's getting listed on a couple other exchanges. That's on Bittrex. We haven't seen that effect happen. We had a tight stop loss, and we got stopped out. So I would still stay away from it. I do see divergence, but I'm not sure we're done bouncing here. As far as like, let me go to an Ichi cloud on here just to switch out my indicators a bit. We can't get a daily Ichi. Yeah, nothing says bullish right now. We want to wait for a confirmation before hopping in a token. If you're stopped out, stay out. Alright, so I covered out of the 6 recently recommended, what are the top 3? I'm still liking Part quite a bit. I haven't checked on it this morning, but I'm still liking this chart. I'm gonna go over why I like this chart a lot. I think technically, as far as the technical setup goes, this is probably one of the nicest charts we've seen in a while. We got a bull flag that broke upwards, made another bull flag, and then it's almost flagging in this range, right? And now we're at the end of this range, and we see a bull flag and then another bull flag. It's just really like stacked and layered bull flags, and I like seeing that. It's definitely gonna pop off. Let me check the volume today. 87 volume's back down. It was at 300 yesterday. But I do see this coin wanting to move up, make decent gains. I looked in a DFA on it, and they've got a decent team. Like if you look at their team, everybody's got links to their LinkedIn pages. They've got quite a bit about them. They've got decent involvement. It does have a low coin supply. With 7 million. We know that low coin supply equals massive price action. So it's gonna be really volatile. And let me see just what kind of gains it's done. And since ICO, we're back up to the ICO release price, right? Or I guess the listing price of right after the ICO came out. Right at the 260 K Satoshi range. And what part is, it's a private decentralized exchange in a way, that's anonymous too. They do have a couple of releases happening, like the wallet release and the desktop version I believe is out. I was looking at DFA on it. So I think, but fundamentally and technically it looks pretty good. So we're past this ICO listing price, and I think now it's ready to rally, right? The reason I say that is because we see these flags. I don't see divergences. I don't see any bearish divergences. And it's looking good. The ADX on the 1 day, it might be a few days from really popping off. It's at 20. I like it to be at 24. And then let me just check how much gains it's already done. It's kind of done a 500% increase, but and this was on low volume, so it's not like it's been really moving. And this could be one of those coins that's kind of like white coin that's done 6,000% under the radar, right? This thing's done over 6,000% under the radar on low volume. And this is also a platform coin. They're very much different in structure, but I like what Part's doing. And until we get any kind of changes on it, then I'm bullish on Part. Looks like Ven is making gains again. If somebody's looking for an exit, it'd be a good time to start looking at maybe scaling out of position. I don't see divergences on the 1 day. I see one on the stochastic, and then we got a higher high, higher high, higher high. Whoa, it's a good pop. So Ven is actually making some gains today. If you like Ven as a long project, it's good. If you, as far as like gains and momentum, I'd like to see what it does outside of this channel, right? We know that it's gotten in this channel and in this range, and it can trade at this price level for a decent amount of time. Covering it for Daniel. So we've got this range that we're in right now, and we want to see what it does at the top of the range. If it breaks out and wants to trade above it, or if it stays in here. I don't see any divergences on the 1 day, so I'm going to go down to a 12-hour and try to hunt down like a bearish or a bullish divergence, just to give us an overall like sentiment of what is happening. Got a bounce off the Stoke. You see somewhat of a divergence here, right, from this low, from these two lows, and I'll highlight them. But it's definitely moving up. Somebody's looking to kind of exit or downsize that position. And they're not in it for a long, just kind of trying to get back into liquid BTC to readjust for the market. I didn't say that either, Keith. I'm just saying, you know, I said I want to see what it does outside of this range. Saying if I was holding Ven right now, if I was still holding it, I would be scaling out. But then here on the 6 hour, we see like a bearish divergence that developed, and then we saw this drop. So you want to start keeping an eye on divergences on all these charts to get out at the right time. We've got higher highs, and then lower highs on the RSI, and somewhat of a rising wedge, and it broke downwards. So let's look at moving averages. Moving averages don't look too appealing, though it's getting a nice pump, so we might actually see that come around and turn around. But we want to see it close above this range before even confirming that it's reversed and it's headed back up. It could just be a bounce. Oh, I bought part 2 days ago when I posted it. That answers that question. HST is another one of these coins that's putting up a bull flag. Let me check the recent gain in value. 42%. So HST looks really nice. We're getting a couple of new exchanges that it's gonna get listed on, and Blender and I had been really monitoring it and talking about it. This is one of his recommendations. And he typically nails these, right? Looking at this chart, which can be a longer term from Cryptopia. I believe I bounced right off that 50% fib. Nope, way lower. Alright, so as far as HST goes, it would become a signal when we see it close above the flag. A bull flag is a bullish formation, obviously from the name, right? But we want to see it open above the flag. We don't like it's getting rejected up here, and volume's been low because it's on like 3 minor exchanges. Had it been on like Binance or Bittrex or an exchange that gets real volume, we could see HST make some really nice highs. But until it gets there, I think this is one of those coins that I'm probably gonna start accumulating and just sitting on until it hits the big exchanges. So And that's when I'd expect the bigger surge of volume and price to start happening. But for now, I feel like it's just gearing up. The volume on it is the BTC values 16, just very low. 0.5 and 0.04. So there's like 17 BTCs in this chart right now that are trading, which is really low. But we're not on any major exchanges. The minute it hits major exchanges, that's why it's somewhat of a recommendation, because it's an up and coming coin. It hasn't gotten listed. We've seen coins at Binance like Van and ZRX, and as soon as they do Waltcoin, Wabi, they just take off. And this is something that we are looking at that has that type of potential, from the fundamentals to the price action to where it is now and where it could be. Does that answer everything on HST? Now, Komodo's looking like a more predictable chart. It kind of looks like the Monero chart months ago. Let's go ahead and go to 1 day. I have to play around with the indicators a bit. I'm gonna get back to you guys on KMD. I feel like this is something that I can write a PDF on its TA, because it's a pretty long-term chart, and I will make it a point to do that today. I don't know if you guys saw the buy rec PDF I did on Monero at $80. This is looking somewhat of a similar setup if I take my time and dive in it. So I'll get back to you guys on KMD ASAP. Probably today with a PDF similar to the Monero one that I did on November 2nd. I'm going to move on to AMP. AMP's been a really low volume coin, and it's tried to make these big moves. And we had a signal on it a while back. I think we had a signal on it during this range, the 3K range. Fibonacci levels wise, it doesn't look that appetizing right now at all. So I would stay away from AMP for the time being, up until it gets back in the fib range. I'm gonna cover the ones, Keith, you got a big list. I said give me 3, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover the ones I spoke about personally, the ones I highlighted, and then I'm gonna cover some of Sochi's and some of the other requests. So moving on, I'm gonna do XRP and Monero. Oh, AMP just did a big spike. I guess it's done that, huh? Actually decent volume. On a short-term fib, it does look bullish. Now that I'm looking at it again, we did get that 50 bounce as opposed to the long-term. And we are seeing a new high. I'm gonna have to talk to Berker about it, and that's a potential coin we could long, because it has made this bounce off the recent 50, and we could see somewhat of a head and shoulders happening, an inverse one. And I just bashed it, but that seems interesting. I did miss something. So AMP's another coin to dive further into. Monero. Man, Monero with another high. That's awesome. We do RSI on here. Divergence play. So we're seeing this constricting price action. It's gonna be sink or swim from this point on Monero. Let's go to the 6 hour. Here we're seeing a higher high on the wick. It's not very divergent, but it's somewhat of a little divergent, right? We see these higher high. I mean, this might be a time to even implement a higher stop on Monero, just because we don't want it crashing while we're holding it. We know it's a fork play. We know the actual Monero core, they are not endorsing Monero V. There's a lot of FUD about Monero V, but the price action of Monero is still going up. That being said, I signaled this thing on 11.2 for a reversal, right? And it was $80 in USD value. And it might be close to the top. I'll relook over my previous PDF, but it kind of was divergent and it corrected, and then we had another divergence, a bullish one, from here to there, and we had it up, and now we've got a higher high. Let me see if I can spot another one on the 1 day. Just keep a tight stop on Monero. I would. That was the last divergence, and now we're entering this constriction. So it's either gonna break up or down, right? We've got price constriction, so it's gonna do something. Alright, Sochi, I'm looking at your Encash. Why do you like this project? Tell me what you like about this coin. You don't know what you like about the coin? We're seeing these waves develop, and that can mean two things. Let me go ahead and kind of switch up my indicators. I'm not seeing long-term accumulation. So when we typically see a coin doing that, it could be in like a heavy accumulation phase where it's somebody's buying it. I got to look through the books and see what it's done and why it's acting this way. Yeah. So seeing these pulses happen like that, that can mean a couple of things. It could just be normal price action, but typically when we see this happen, I believe it's in accumulation mode. What happens is somebody buys up a lot of the coins, right? And then they set these buy walls, like a market maker move would set a sell wall right at, I'm just gonna put these lines on the chart, right? So they'd buy up all these tokens and they'd put a sell wall here and then start buying below the sell wall. And over time, they start acquiring more of the tokens and they start bringing that wall down. And then anybody that's trying to get out, they start getting out from underneath them and then underneath them. And then now there's very little sellers at this price. They move up that sell wall again, or they buy it back up, and they're kind of doing that. It's being walked down. It looks like from a market maker perspective, it's setting up for something. And I don't know much about the project, so I'm gonna keep an eye on it. It's not giving me any kind of signal moves. The volume on it is 910. That's actually pretty decent. Sochi, I think it's priming for some kind of upwards price action. I'm not gonna use the pump word, but I don't know what volume's been on here. I'm gonna have to do a little more research on Encash. Definitely an accumulation. Over VIB. VIB was one of Blender's recommendations. So you see like a hidden bullish divergence here, and then a high, and then another low. Volume is 71 BTC. What I want to highlight in times like these, that trying to catch something at the absolute bottom is going to be very risky, because I'm a firm believer that bottom doesn't really exist, right? Because people could be thinking, oh, it's at bottom, it's going to go up from here. Well, it goes up, but then it makes a newer low, and then, oh, it's at bottom and it makes a newer low. I've seen that happen over and over again through all these altcoin cycles. People are like, oh, I just bought this coin at bottom, or I'm gonna buy it because it's at bottom. But bottom doesn't really exist. True bottom is delisted off an exchange. So I'm a fan of sticking to coins in an uptrend. If you look at the like Monero and Syscoin, and even like OMG, like these coins are actually, we're trading with the trend. We're not trading against the trend. And it's the risk of going against the trend is going to be a lot bigger in times of uncertainty. It's not like we're in an alt rally and we're trying to catch the next flyer. No, we're in like an alt almost bear market. We screened all the top 100 coins, and 16 of them made gains in the last week over BTC in terms of BTC. And that's really low, right? It's 16% of the top 100 altcoins are gaining. And I think our biggest gainer was like 14, 15, no, maybe 20% in BTC value. The average was 4%. So not being in an alt rally is going to want to keep at least me away from coins that are not in an absolute uptrend. We cover Ripple or Cripple Matrix. Sorry, guys. Signaled it back in at like 95 USD. It's kind of working its way back down. Let's put a fib on here. Ripple's been moving quite a bit on fundamentals recently. I saw that bounce and it pushed past that 38. We could see another bounce off the 50 or bounce off the 61. They've announced quite a bit of partners and quite a bit of new programs, and I think there's a lot of people that are sour on Ripple. I mean, this coin went up to $3.25 from 24 from a quarter, and now it's back down at sub $1. From a USD standpoint, I think it should rally again. And the reason I say that, the volume has been there. Ripple BTC volume was 2,000 yesterday on Bittrex, on Binance, 8,000. So there's a lot of volume. But one thing we're seeing is a lot of these coins are being short sold. So it's a matter of time until Ripple does. It just flies through the shorts like it did before. And it kind of makes that massive gain. And I would keep a tight stop on any holdings right now, just because we're in times of uncertainty, and I would rather have my capital be free and able to maneuver it than be sitting there at a big loss and just kind of like, oh, I don't want to sell because I'm down. Well, it's a good time to implement stop losses on anything that's on exchange of my coins, because it's going to give me the liquidity to get in another move. Well, Keith, that's not the first time that rumor comes out. And it didn't just move on that rumor. There's a few partnerships happening with Ripple. I mean, we're seeing the payment protocol be tested and utilized, and we want to see that keep happening, right? So it's just a matter of time before it gets implemented again. There was another good read. There's a lot of Ripple articles coming out about Ripple. I'm not a fan of how Ripple works, but we've seen anytime there's big pilot programs, we've seen it make massive moves, and that's when it's important to capture the gains out of XRPs whenever it does make these surges, and getting in on these surges is tough, right? And now we kind of try to test this channel down here where we had that last bull flag. And we had that bounce, and it actually bounced all the way up, like almost 20-30%. So, you know, it still being in a downtrend, I would implement a tight stop as well. This should be really important right now. Just to have that liquidity. How are we doing on time? We got like 13 minutes, guys. Give me a few alts or give me some concepts. You guys want to talk market sentiment? I want to be here for you guys, and I want you to kind of tell me what you want to know about the market as far as my perspective goes. What would you guys like me to go over? So my notes are my thoughts and things that I'm seeing in the market. A call in a signal would be like a trading idea that's been implemented by the analysts and myself, and something we truly believe in and that's gonna rally. Then, if that answers your question, BTC bullish sentiment. Yes, I think BTC is still bullish. I think this is just another. I'm gonna tell you guys something about BTC. BTC, when you start trading it on margin, or if you ever do, if you're monitoring the guys that are trading it on margin, it wants to liquidate everybody, right? It's not gonna find the it's not gonna take the path of least resistance, it's gonna take the path that's gonna liquidate the most longs and shorts on margin, to burn the fingers and make market maker the most money. We're going back to fibbing BTC right now. This is 720 minute chart. It's a 12-hour chart. I'm gonna go back 2-hour. So it's at an interesting point. Back to whoever was talking about insight on Fib. Fibonacci's, well, you know, there's retracements and there's extensions. This is a time you want to implement a Fibonacci retracement just to see what it's retraced. And you want to go from your most recent swing low. If you were to stick to that concept right there, then this 10.7 is bottom. The next step down would be 10.5, right? Would be 10.5, based on a longer term Fib. And that's the thing about Fibonacci retracements. It's all about how we apply them on a chart, and the length term of the actual move. The longer term the move, the deeper the pullback. And that's when we saw the correction on BTC, because we hadn't seen a 50% retracement in quite some time, right? And when we were tracing this one down, we have to keep moving our Fib back to figure out where the bottom actually was. And I still think it's bullish. Absolutely think it's bullish. It's going into a falling wedge is what it looks like. Let me go to 30-minute. It's found a little bit of support here. I want to see what happens at this range. I'm not gonna go long on margin yet. I'm gonna really wait this one out, just so I nail it at absolute bottom. I mean, I had a, what was it, 9,400 when I had the last accumulation zone. Let me go ahead and go back to it. And I do have that chart in BitMEX long short. Where was it? 9,400 was the last buy, right? So from there on margin, had I held that long for up until yesterday, I would have made some massive gains. Instead, I sold it like 10.9, right? It'd be 24% times 25 times. That would have been a crazy amount of gains. So I'm gonna try to catch the next long at the absolute bottom, like we did at that 9,400 range, and ride it up through past 12K. I think we're gonna make a higher high. I really do. I think it's taking longer to get up there, and I can see why. I mean, it had been so divergent all this time. All these highs are on a bearish divergence, but it kept pumping up and it kept pumping up. And then, interesting enough, CNBC puts it up yesterday, and they're like, oh, you know, Bitcoin bottomed and it's heading up. And that's when it crashed, like 2 hours after the CNBC tweet. So we have to almost keep an eye on these market makers and the noise makers and the general media, right? Because those guys are not looking out for us. We're not paying their bills, and they're not really affiliated with us. Elite, back to insight on Fibonacci. I've got a video on Fib, and it's actually a workshop that we did last week or the week before on Fibonacci retracements and RSI divergences. That's in our trading library. Guys, we got about 7 minutes. Anybody else have any questions? All you'd like me to cover? What I call is sell on that kind of social media announcement. I almost think we should. It's funny because they tweeted BTC at resistance, when we were over here, right? And it's silly. They'll take a screenshot on somebody's stupid Coinbase phone, right? And they'll take a screenshot. They'll put an arrow up or down on the BTC chart, and they'll tweet it. It's like, what kind of analysis is that? And that's what makes like CNBC almost like a reverse play. I'm not saying that's the only reason to exit, but based on divergences and when mass media is pumping something, it's time to get out and look for the retracement, or it's time to short. And that's just been proven time and time again, even in the stock market. Like these guys, when they praise something, that's not a good sign. Just like when they get, the mania getting BTC to $20,000, that wasn't natural. That was the media pumping it. People mortgaging their homes. When they say, oh, people are mortgaging their homes, taking this big risk on this thing called Bitcoin. And then it tanks. And so it's like, that's something we kind of have to take into consideration with, media plays, and especially those CNBC types of plays. What's the best info volume gives on a coin? Well, volume's just volume is how much of it's trading. It's not all the volume is buy volume, not all the volume is sell volume, right? Trying to figure out if there's more buying than selling. A lot of times the selling's short. In the US, we can't margin trade on most exchanges, on everything except for Kraken. We can't margin trade our alts, which sucks. So other countries can be short selling us their altcoins. And that's what brings the price down. It's not a fair exchange, and trading's a zero-sum gain, right? Or yeah, because net zero gain, because if a coin makes 5%, right, somebody's gonna make 5%, that person's gonna lose 5%. So it's trying to figure out the net of the volume and which way things are headed. That really matters. What volume does let us know, though, is that there is liquidity. Liquidity is really important, because if, let's say, a chart had 2 BTC in volume in it, and we were to go in and buy some of that chart, if we were to come in and buy that, and let's say 5 BTC worth, well, now we're contributing more volume to the chart than the chart actually has, and that's gonna have a massive impact on it. What is the significance? What MAs do I use? Write those down, man. Got 9, 50, and a 30. It helps me better read the chart, especially on that interval. I can do a class on MAs, a whole workshop. Like BTC doesn't really conform to them on time frames, but if you look at something like Lisk, it's a perfect candidate. Every chart is gonna have its own set of MAs. Those are gonna be the ones I typically use in general. I'm not gonna go into very much detail on them, but what the MAs do is they allow me to see whether we're getting a true rally or a fake out based on the time frame. So what MAs do is they allow us to identify a bull trap from a true rally. That's one of their objectives, especially whenever we look at them on a certain time frame, right? And I just said that a few times about time frames. We're gonna want to see what the chart is doing in a downtrend, and when it really breaks the longer term moving average. And here we're still seeing fake outs on a 4-hour chart on LSK, and another fake out where they cross over the long term and then they move back up in that direction. So the idea with moving averages is trying to back test and find out, let's say, what time frame we're not seeing those fake outs. So here we see on a 6-hour chart, when the long term crosses, you get a massive gain. And once again, there is no fake out. When the long term crosses, it goes again, and it's actually still going. Then here we see somewhat of a fake out, another fake out on a 6-hour. So it's a good way to strategy back test and understand the market cycles of a coin. So Lisk is very much like a harmonic wave type of chart where it makes massive gains, consolidates a certain way, massive gains again. So it's very much cyclical. We see these cycles, almost like looking at a sound wave with LSK, where you see this consolidation and then a shot up, consolidation and a shot up, consolidation and a shot up, and now and it just broke that trend, right? This was the cycle in this range, and it then broke that and made a massive high. So now it's time to, like, I don't even know if these MAs are still valid on LSK because it's not moving like it was in this range. So this is what MAs will help us figure out, and this is just one example. Crosses typically dictate whether the chart is bullish or bearish. There is like an MA death cross in my mind that on the way down, if a chart, when these MAs close, these two close on like a daily after a massive gain, it's time to get out. Yeah, that's what I call a death cross. So there's quite a few significances to moving averages, and they help us see at what moment in time what happened with the chart, based on the movement of those averages. So they help us get signals. Man, dude, this is I can do a workshop pitch, fans. I think we're over time. I'd love to answer that one. We are over time. I will do a workshop on pitch fans. I'll do it on Friday. How does that sound, Keith? I know you want all the knowledge, and this is PowerHour isn't typically an indicators class type of setup. It's more of let's go over the market sentiment and stuff. But since we had more time, I went over and answered some of these questions. But I will do pitch fans and moving averages class on Friday. If not, we'll do Saturday. For you guys, we'll do another workshop. Thank you guys for tuning into PowerHour. I'll be on the chat today. I'll monitor BTC for another open long, and yeah, I hope I answered your all questions. And I'll do a pitch fan workshop and some moving averages at some point this week, probably Friday at the latest. Anyways, guys, thank you guys for tuning into PowerHour, and yeah, I'm gonna be doing something similar tomorrow on Facebook with Zero. We're gonna do a live Q&A with FA and TA, and so we're gonna be on Facebook Live for an hour, and I'm probably gonna stream it on YouTube as well. And so we're gonna run dual streams and kind of get some Q&A going for everyone. So if you guys want to tune in to another PowerHour type of setup with more fundamentals, Zero is gonna be on the call with me, and we're both gonna be streaming. So it's gonna be cool. Make sure to tune into that. That's gonna be at 1 p.m. Central Standard, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard. That'd be the latest announcement, yeah. And then I'll catch you guys in the chat. Thanks.